All right, gentlemen. Well, today's topic will be event prep or show prep or track prep. One of the
Mostly
above.
track prep.
Mostly track prep.
Track day, race stuff. Race inspired.
Just because you guys were at Grid Life recently, and I'm sure, hopefully, nobody had any issues. Too bad.
There was some issues, both with us and the cars.
Okay, well, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
For now, we'll start out with our typical nonsense that we normally start out with. I leave for Euro District this weekend. It's a show in Jeffersonville, Indiana, hosted by Euro Trash Barrel.
Indiana, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's a pretty decent
basically
show.
Kentucky.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a bridge away from Kentucky. It's a decent show. They have a lot of good cars there and stuff whatnot. So that's all I'm prepping
Decent.
for.
It's a decent show.
Taking the Rado, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm taking the Corrado.
Dang.
Bringing a spare fuel pump, or
Hey now.
how about some coils? Prep, dog. Come on, this is what we're talking about. We'll get there.
I got to go through all that stuff tonight.
Yeah.
I drove it the other day. I started this morning to drive it to work, and it sounded like it had some choppy cams in it, and I was like, what the hell? So I popped the hood and all here. It's got a giant vacuum leak from the manifold.
Nice.
One of the hoses just split, which is not a big deal, but
Not from too much boost.
no.
From too much
Don't
suck.
remind me. lack thereof boost. Rip. So yeah, I'm just working on that. Gotta go over everything and make sure it's okay. It's like a 4.5 hour drive, which will be the longest drive that I've done in that car.
Oh, yeah.
Ever.
That's it?
Did
4.5?
I thought you
Yeah.
brought it to like H2O or something.
No, I've never taken it to H2O.
You know what?
I've
Once
wanted
you
to.
get outside of like the 30, 45 minute radius, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I'd say
I know.
hour and a half.
Hour and a half?
From an hour and a half on, everything's heat soaked, and then from there out, it's basically the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so hour and a
Depends
half
on the
is,
time of
like,
year.
The range that your buddy's willing to like go pick you up. Pretty
Right.
much.
That's
Yeah,
also
that's
true.
pushing it.
I think that's money
pushing it.
motivated though too. So in case I need anybody,
Yeah,
there's
anything's
money in
money-motivated.
it for any.
If
of
you haven't
you.
renewed your AAA
Kevin or
membership,
Mike.
now's the time.
I don't know. I mean, I might be going with you, so
Okay.
maybe.
Regardless, it should be fine. I've basically replaced all of the really main components that would go bad in the last year or so it should be fine. But other than that, yeah, that's all I'm working on, getting ready for that, and so we'll see what happens. What
Okay.
about you, Kevin?
Well, we got the mill pushed into its forever home, or at least my
Forever until you go try and put up a wall there and realize
No. There's plenty
easier.
of space. There's plenty of space. We specifically left space behind it so that there would be enough to open the electrical panel and, get behind it for whatever. So that's on the back burner now because I started insulation. And I'm like 80% done-ish. Got a couple little things to button up, but I need to like add another outlet for the mill. I need to add another outlet for a future lathe and do some like air plumbing stuff and get the heater up. So a couple things more that I need to button up before I actually finish this, but it's it's mostly there. Not bad. It smells like burnt sugar in here.
It does.
Honestly, it
It's
smells
very
kind of
strange.
good.
It's not a bad smell.
It's
It's
not
like
bad.
it's like a lumber slash,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's insulation
burnt
for
sugar.
sure. But
Yeah,
yeah.
but you get the smell of both still. Not to mention it's so the weather's changing and it smells outside is different too. So
Yeah.
It's not off-putting, but it is alarming. Like, you walk in and you can't miss it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's better than pretty much any other smells that you're going to encounter in here from here on out. So, like gear oils and things like that.
I knew you were gonna say gear oil because I was
Yeah.
like, it's the worst.
That's
It's
the
smelling
smelliest one.
Yeah,
It's
the
the worst.
gear
smelliest,
oil.
the smelliest smell.
Ugh.
Anyway, besides that, I got rid of my seats from the B7. I got rid of one motor, so I still have two kicking around, and we're gonna probably just start chopping up the shell at some point this week, maybe.
Sawzall party.
Sawzall party.
I actually have to strap down the 6-speed swap kit to a pallet and attempt to ship it. So
Oof.
the guy's pretty much organizing it. I just need to do the drain the fluids, strap it down, and put a label on it part.
We're just dropping off at Fastenal because that's like the way to go.
Oh, I didn't know.
Fastenal ship stuff.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Well, he's organizing and all. So I'm
Yeah.
giving him some dimensions. I'm giving him some weights, and that's about it. And then the rest of it is I'm gonna drop it off at work with a label, and say like, here, put it on the truck.
Right.
So,
there you go.
shouldn't be too bad, but
No, should be fairly
Yeah.
straightforward.
but then finally get this silver thing that's taking up space in here out of here
Yeah.
in many pieces because the scrapyard won't take it without a title. So have to make it. They said I asked if I chopped it in half, if they would take it, and they said no. It has to not
Quarters?
look like a car. Like, okay, so like
so
10 pieces.
half and bunch
So-
of sledgehammers.
So I'm assuming you're still gonna take the fenders and the hood and doors
Nope.
and stuff off.
No,
Oh, you're just
absolutely not.
You're just getting rid
I
of
don't have
that
time
guy?
for that. Like, what am
Okay.
I gonna do with it? Store it
Well, I don't
until
know.
somebody
Just-
wants it?
Put up on Facebook for.
Yeah.
It's
like-
already been up.
Okay.
Done. There's, I have forum posts. I have Facebook Marketplace
I
posts.
still think if
I
you
posted
get-
just the shell for $100 for like literally everything in there, and nobody wants it. So it's
You put it for
trash.
free.
I don't know. I did have an
haven't
idea
dropped
though.
it
If we
down
just like roll it back into the woods and get that skid steer and build like the old Randall
Oh.
ramp,
Oh, just build a jump
The
over.
S4
Random
tabletop.
ramp.
tabletop Randall ramp.
S4 tabletop. I do
Mhm.
like that.
Oh boy.
I don't.
I see those
I don't not-
gears turning. in
No,
Kevin's
I
head.
don't not like this idea. I just think there will be penalties down the road
I think-
when it's in the woods and it needs to be out.
I
Granted, there is that old Beetle chassis back there that like just rotted into the ground.
Right.
Mm.
S4 tabletop.
I don't know. It would make a good gap or ramp filler.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas wants the top hats off the front coilovers though. So
Well,
Well,
yeah, I'm not. it's a big hassle to pull them anyway. So
Right.
Kind of like, well,
Tell him he had to pull him himself.
well, if we hook up all the
Comes
Moto
with a free car?
4s, if we hook up all the Moto 4s at once, we could probably pull it back there.
ooh, the hill's pretty rough.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know
probably
about that.
We'd have to get a pretty good running start. Like,
I can bring the Mog over though, and we could definitely get it back.
Oh yeah, we could pull them with the Moto 4s and then push with the Mog.
I'm not into the push. Don't like the
figured.
push
yeah,
technique
maybe
No.
the other way around, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't get in front of it
No, I would.
No.
with a Moto 4.
or behind it. Honestly,
Yeah, that's true. Up the hill.
I think we'll clear a
Okay.
new trail on its way down though. That'd be
Yeah.
pretty cool.
that would be interesting.
Besides that,
Stuck.
it's just did the grid life thing, so we'll get into that. But
Yep.
that'll be part of the track day prep talk. So, Will, you're next.
Yeah, I got some. I got good and I got bad updates. I'm not really sure where to start on those. I guess the bad one would be I don't even know. I don't even think I told Dave.
Listening.
Our last podcast recording, I did. I drove the Miata over here, and it was a little damp. It rained while we were here, and leaving here, getting onto 77 from Arlington Road there.
Wait, when you were next to me?
I wasn't. You left before me.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, things got a little wild on the highway. Did like a 360
Bro.
on 77, and then got like smashed in the rear by a semi.
No, what
Yeah.
the, bro?
Yeah. Although it sounds worse than it actually was. I did get hit by a semi, but I got like looped out, and then I got in it again because I saw him coming, and I knew he wasn't gonna be able to like stop in time or whatever. So I like rolled in it again and got. If I had to take a guess, I'd say maybe like 15, 20 miles an hour rolling when he hit me.
So it doesn't
So-
affect you.
You got booped.
I got it's a solid boop. It was a solid boop.
Is it a total boop?
No,
Just
no.
a little rear end pullage and some new stuff.
Yeah, I've already done all that, like, because I couldn't look at it. Got home in the garage and immediately started taking everything apart because
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't have this just like
Sit here and be
embarrassment in
sad.
front of me. Yeah, so
Well, I'm glad you're okay.
yeah, honestly, like
Jeez.
I've gotten in accidents in the past. Usually not my fault anyways, but always like real upset about it.
Yeah.
Like because it's your thing.
Well, right, yeah.
But honestly, like I wasn't upset about this at all
Yeah, I think
because
I'd
it could
run
have
you
been
right
I mean,
over.
so much worse.
Considering the fact that you're in a 400 and some horsepower Miata with an LS in it that basically weighs nothing, you could have been.
They're not large. I was
real-
driving
real
behind Will
smashed.
in my Dodge truck,
Yeah.
like on the highway.
Oh,
and
no,
I was
they're-
like, wow, like I could just run this thing over.
Yeah,
Like,
you could. You could literally
he's got
drive
no
over it.
chance.
You just drive over it.
I was probably fortunate it was a semi because they have those front like air dams that come down so close
True,
to the
yeah.
ground that it didn't run me
If it would've
over.
been some lifted EE truck, you'd probably be
So-
done for.
Of course, there was nothing wrong with the semi, of course.
Yeah.
And pulled over, talked to him for a second. I'm like, well, had it not been a semi, like when you get rear-ended, like it's, benefit of the doubt goes to the
Right.
person in front. The person that did the rear ending is usually at fault
Right.
when there's not like a clear evidence. But
Right.
then again, this is a commercial semi that has one of those fancy dash cam things that triggers every time anything weird happens. So,
Yeah.
I was like, nah, it was my fault. And I told him that, and I was like, could see there was nothing wrong with the truck. I'm like, let me know what you want to do. I'm just going to fix this on my own anyways. And he's like, well, I'd rather not have safety and all them involved and calling me and looking into all this other stuff.
Are we going to
So-
get him in trouble by talking about this?
How many? No.
No.
How could you
No.
possibly
Okay.
know?
Hey, you never know.
Yeah,
he didn't
so
do anything wrong.
No,
No, I
he didn't
know.
do anything wrong. Yeah, so
geez,
he said,
man.
he's like, yeah, sorry, I tried to stop. I was like, dude, I know you did. It's not on you. So he was like, yeah, if you just want to get going, it's fine with me. I said, yep, let's get out of here. So
Nothing. So it was just body damage. It wasn't any like mechanical or
now driven home. Yeah, so
suspension stuff. Not.
yeah, it was a little crunchy. I'll show you the picture. It got
Did
into
we
the.
post it on CAD Cars?
Yeah, post on
Yeah.
We
Cat
should.
Car.
We posted Mike dying on.
It's
CAD
embarrassing enough. I don't
Cars.
know.
Yeah,
Now-
we should
now you
post
know.
it. Yeah, we need to
Yeah.
post it.
It's not embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
It's
a little
not.
Bit, yeah.
Everybody, bro, believe me, there could be a way worse situation than that. That's not
no,
even
I'm
bad.
not. Yeah, of
The
course it
people
could be
want to know
worse,
what
I'm
the
just saying.
boop looks
The
like.
boop.
Yeah, it's definitely a boop. Once you look at it, you're like, oh.
Yeah,
So then you
um,
proceeded to
is-
cut the entire
well,
rear
your-
end of the car off.
Is your
Yeah.
trunk open or closed?
It's not existent at this point.
It's
Oh.
got a trunk on it again.
I went and got all the stuff. I got everything that I broke for $100.
Where?
The guy had some Miata parts laying around.
Part out.
There's so many freaking Miatas
Oh,
out
yeah,
there.
there
Like
is a
their
lot of
parts are
Miatas.
so
Yeah.
freaking cheap. The only thing that's not cheap is typically that rear finish panel, where the license plate frame goes, because
Yep.
those like explode anytime anything touches them.
Yep.
And so like one that's all in one piece is usually a bunch of money. This one had cracks in it, but it was still in one piece. So I was like, yeah, dude, I'll take it, whatever. So
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll fix that up. So yeah, cut out the whole floor, the trunk, and everything already. I'm just gonna like throw some tubes back there and
We're gonna make
just make more race car.
Can we just make a
Which-
Miata shark cart?
Nah, I'm not okay, so I'm not. I don't hate the idea of like a tube frame chassis. I
Right.
don't like the carts that use like the majority of the body.
That's just
agree.
That's just metal piping. That's
There
just-
are
it's
like
kinda sketchy.
kit cars that use
Yeah.
just the subframes and then have an entirely tube chassis, which
Yeah.
I think are really cool, and I'd be interested in doing that. Although I'm not really taking that on right now. So
Yeah, it seems like a lot, and if
Yeah.
it's not super irreparable, then
yeah, it's fine.
I'd like to point out, you had it fixed. You cut out parts that were undamaged.
oh no,
Like, you fixed the parts that were damaged.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. He didn't need to cut out anything with the floor or any of that. This has just been an invitation to snowball into a larger project.
Yeah,
Hey.
You
Well,
kind of
know,
breezed right over this, and I'm not going to let it happen because I see exactly what you're doing. The floor was untouched. It was perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it. You're like, I'm going to cut this perfectly fine bit out, and then
Now, why are you cutting out the floor?
Sort of. While it was relatively undamaged, the movement of the panels that were damaged exposed some Heidi rust. Which I was
I
like,
get that, but it's
you could see some of like the seams had like delaminated and like the paint had cracked like up along like the pinch welds and everything. I'm like, it was just an opportunity to like.
I just want you to
be
say
better.
that. It's an opportunity to do different things.
Right.
You did not need to.
I
do
didn't
what
need
you're
to.
doing.
It still runs and drives. Other than me not having a place to put my battery now, but
It's an opportunity to
Well, maybe
add
if you
another
wouldn't cut out the
project to the
floor.
list. Add one more little thing you gotta do.
So
Yeah.
if you cut out, what's your plan here? What's your goal here? If you cut the floor out,
Tubes.
yeah, tube, just
Okay,
aluminum
okay.
sheet, whatever,
well, you
Just
might as well.
clean it
I
up.
mean, if you're in there anyways,
Right.
Race car.
yeah, more race car.
So that was the bad in my update. Moving on. So now the biggest problem also is now that I've like sort of hidden the evidence of my little mishap, I'm like a little more comfortable putting it in the corner. I want to mess with it, but I'm trying not to because of the, Mazdas that I still own.
Yeah.
I did make progress. I swapped all the transmission bits from the Speed 3 to the Speed 6 Trans. It has all the gears amazingly. I thought it was like pure luck the first time I did it. I was like, wow, I put it back together right. Didn't forget like the detents or whatever, like stupid stuff like that. Because like if you pull out like the not the stacks, not the shift forks, but the
The rails.
the rails that they ride on.
Yeah.
And you don't pull the detents out, the little ball falls into the bottom of the rail hole, and then you go try and seal the whole case back up, and there's
Yeah,
like
it
a
just
little
doesn't
ball
work.
detent down
And
at
those
the
are
bottom.
kind of a bear to get back in.
Yeah. So
I've never
you
had
know,
to deal with that, so I'm not really super familiar with what you're saying.
I
So-
wouldn't suggest it as
like I
you know,
said,
fun.
First
activity.
time around, I was like, man, I got lucky. It went
Yeah.
back together and had all the gears, worked great.
Did you drive it? Did you
The last one that I did, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But this one, you know, put it all back together again, like way less care. You know, I was like, I did it once, I
like
could do
once
it
you do it
again.
once,
Like,
yeah.
didn't pay attention to anything and just kind of blew it all apart, swapped the stuff over, put it back together, and amazingly has all the gears. So
Look at that.
that's done, sealed up, and hopefully,
Facebook
if Kevin is
Marketplace.
kind enough, I can borrow that there engine hoist because I think it's ready to go back together. I just need to locate one of the coolant lines for the engine that I seem to have misplaced somewhere, but that's all done. It's ready to go.
Yeah, I gotta get that transmission on a pallet. So
Well, let me know.
Worst comes to
Pallet
worst,
in the
let me
back of
know
the
if you
truck.
need an engine hoist. I could probably grab it for my dad's.
Okay.
I don't think he's using it for anything currently.
All right.
The
I
Le
could
the Le
potentially
Mans
just
is back together. So.
put it in there today on the pallet, just 'cause that's the heavy bit that I gotta get like up into the truck bed onto a pallet. So if I can get that done, and throw a tarp over it or something, it'd be fine. And you can take it.
Okay. I'll figure it out. Aside from that, I can't remember if I mentioned in the last one, like officially did trade Derek for the other quad.
Yeah.
So
I think
the
you
blue one's
mentioned
with
it.
him, the older one's with me. Mounted.
Ooh, the blue
So you have
The
no
blue
working- no
with the
working
suspension?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So ordered tires last week, put new tires on. I will physically murder the next person that I see using tire slime on anything unless it's a life or death situation. I hate this stuff. It smells horrible and it gets everywhere.
It ruins
and-
your tires too
Oh
over
my
time.
God.
It dry
The
rots the
worst.
shit out of them.
So, anyways, every single tire had slime in it, and I was just not happy taking those off. And then, but yeah, so I put those on. Those were good to go. And then I got back home and like went to go put them on, and I remembered I had ordered front wheel bearings. I'm like, oh, I got to do these wheel bearings real quick before I put it all back together.
Yeah.
Took the bearings out of both front hubs, and then realized that the bearings that I had were not right.
No,
So
boy,
while they don't change much on Moto 4s, apparently after the first couple years they went to a different bearing.
well,
for the
let me
front
know
wheels.
because I have to do that on mine too. So let me know what bearings
Well,
you
yeah.
buy.
The front end's different because it's got the
No,
suspension.
no, no.
It's brakes versus not brakes.
Yeah, 'cause mine
it
has
went from
brakes.
like the first couple years, which were the brakeless ones, to the brake ones. Then they had much smaller bearings than the ones with brakes.
Yep.
So
Oh, really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
the big early ones were big because mine just went, whoop, that ain't gonna fit.
Oh yeah, because what? Yours has front brakes, right,
yes.
Mike?
Yeah, mine has front
Okay.
brakes.
So and yours also does.
No front
So
brakes.
yours later. Okay.
Earlier.
Or
Yeah, one of mine has brakes. One, the other does not.
mine has brakes in the front.
So it'd be later.
Okay.
I
Well, I
think it
should
was
have.
I think it was
should
an option,
have
but
one set of the
whichever.
bearings that you need.
Okay.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just been polishing the plastics, making it trying to look nice. It's coming out pretty good,
That's good.
and yeah, I think that's it.
Cool.
Mike,
Sigh.
I'm not sure where to go.
928. Where are we at?
Oh, the 928. The
Drive it
928
here.
So, the 928 has been a bit of a saga, mostly CIS related, which shouldn't really be that surprising. But this is a way simpler CIS, and I thought it was
Still
going to be
hasn't
great.
fixed his Audi. Bought another CIS car. Also can't fix that one.
V8
This is-
Yeah, with
CIS
more
car.
cylinders.
It's the more cylinders isn't the problem.
That isn't the problem. I
More
This is
fuel
not
injectors.
the Audi has the electronic adjust stuff for like enrichment. It has an O2 sensor and like trims with some little dopey valve on it. This older 928 stuff has just a screw on the top, and you have lean or rich.
Right.
You have no way to know. You just go by sound. You're like, all right, one way, then the other. So it's like carb tuning. It's great.
Right.
But there's some shenanigans going on in there. It's been apart by some idiot a million times. Someone had like all screwdriver scar marks on the like perfectly ground surfaces.
Right. Sealing faces.
Yeah.
Metal to metal stuff.
Yeah, so it's not been a great experience. I cleaned the interior. The interior looks great now. Finally put that in this weekend. I had it running decently. It was not great, but running decently. I'm like, I'll take it around the block. So I tried to do that Saturday or something like that. I got halfway around the block. I'm like, oh, it's running terrible.
Literally around the block.
Yeah, literally a block, not a large block near my house.
It's a very small block.
I got like this very slight uphill incline. You wouldn't notice unless you're on a bicycle, but it is uphill. And you get to the top, I'm like, oh, this is running bad. I need to get back now. So I went to turn around the block and come down the other way. I got like down the next street, and then halfway down the next one, it was like, it's over. And it's like a very slight uphill. And then it just died. So I walked back to my house, got some tools, rode my bicycle back, kind of poked at it on the side of the road, got nowhere. I'm like, all right, screw it. Threw my bike in the back, and then drove it home on the starter, which must have been at least a quarter of a mile.
Yeah, that's a long.
Did they have a clutch interlock, or did you have to jump
No,
that?
there's no clutch interlock.
You didn't care? Yeah,
No,
okay.
yeah, too old for
a
that.
block on a starter is a lot.
I ended up getting first, and then I grabbed second, and then I'm still on the starter once you get moving, so that was good.
Yeah.
So it was a little...
Okay.
But like everyone's mowing the lawn, there's a guy out getting the mail, and he's like, hey, it sounds like you got no fuel. I'm like, yeah, I know. So I'm just staying on the key as the car, like, lurches past you.
It's like, oh, don't have time. Can't talk. You stay to chat.
So you'll be purchasing a new starter then here soon.
No, the thing, it still cranks great. I don't know. They must have known it was CAS, so they, like, really overbuilt the starter or something.
Just
But,
in case you had to.
Yeah, I got
whip
it back in my
somewhere.
driveway. I tried to flatten like the two machine surfaces of the fuel distributor, and totally messed it up. So now it's coin shaped and doesn't seal. So I have to deal with that some more.
Oof.
There's a mill over here.
Yeah, you got a fly cutter?
Just
gotta make one.
You know, you need a tool. You might have to just bring it over and then leave it here.
Yeah, I see. We'll see if it comes to that. But I think I'm at the point where I realize this was a very impulsive decision I probably should not have made. So, title will be en route this evening. Yeah. I think it might be parting ways with my driveway. I do want to get it running again.
Yeah.
Like, get it back to where it was.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that hard.
I'd like to take a bet that you won't actually sell it.
That I won't actually sell it?
I don't think you'll do it.
sell
I think you're too determined to fix it. and
Ooh,
make it
no.
run
See, it's
proper.
very rare I make this decision
No,
to sell
he
If
something.
he
said
can
he's-
fix it for free, he'll keep it.
He
Yeah.
said he was gonna fix it
Well,
enough.
title coming for what reason? Just to drive or?
Well, he
'Cause it
needed
doesn't
it
have one.
eventually anyways.
He
well, right. No, I know, but
It didn't have a title before.
I know.
That's
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah, that's
So now it's like worth something to someone else.
Right.
right. I got over the major loophole for Ohio, or the major hurdle for people that like,
Yeah.
oh, it doesn't have a title. I can't do anything with that. I'm like, I can get a title.
Yep.
Yeah, you
Title's
can't
en
even
route.
scrap a car without a freaking title.
True.
Right. So
Kevin glares. At
I
that.
did all that
That's
legwork. That's fine. You know, I cleaned it up nice. It looks like $1 million inside. Everything's great.
Yeah.
Carpet came out nice. You know, we cleaned the exterior. Looks
Yep.
way better. It's actually in pretty good shape. It would be the perfect LS swap candidate. Like
It would.
they sell a
for
bell
like a-
housing kit for like less than $1,400 for drop in for an old school small block,
Ooh.
which
Ah.
shares a lot of similarities.
Right.
Do you want to use that transmission? For
It's
something
fine.
like that? Really?
Yeah, it'd be
Okay.
great for that.
Yeah, small block doesn't make any power.
No, for like just a 6-liter or any aluminum 5.7 deal or something like that, it'd be great.
Yeah.
It'd be fine for that much power. And then
Oh,
just
that's
drop
small
in.
block. New small block.
New small block. But I mean, they sell a bell housing adapter for the old one because this engine has been CAS and that unreliable for this long. Where people are like, never mind, let me put
Yeah.
Something
the
reliable.
next
in it.
thing in.
Well,
Yeah.
then you'll definitely keep it.
Right, and I don't want to do that.
Hey, you haven't. You have one sitting around.
I
don't
know.
you?
I have 2 sitting around. I don't want. No. That's why this needs to part ways.
Oh boy.
So we'll see. That might be the next saga.
It'll just get another V8, just a different brand.
It would be a really nice car with that. I just don't.
It would.
I don't.
I
know.
really enjoy the interior in that. It's quite odd,
It
but
could
it's
be yours.
no, absolutely not. I absolutely not. I need that like I need another hole in my head.
It's the same.
Hard pass.
Another?
Yes, another hole, Kevin.
He's got a few.
But yeah, otherwise I've done nothing other
Yeah.
than poke at this and like deal with. I feel like I've been soaked in gas since grid life. So,
Truth.
which
Ooh,
I guess
yeah, we need to
now's
get
our
into that.
transition
Yeah, there
into
you
that.
go.
Yeah.
All
All right.
So track day
Dive
prep.
right in.
And I think I want to start out with this because this is the major mistake I at least made, and I think Kevin made as well, although it didn't bite him as hard. We were talking about how reliable our cars were before we went.
Oof. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's never gonna happen.
It did not
You just-
bite you, but
you
it
can
did.
think it. Don't say it out loud.
Right.
Oh no. The
It
moment
did
you say it out
scumbag
loud-
me into getting a couple things broken. So
Yeah.
in hindsight, I would not have said that.
especially with the issue that popped up before you left, and you just kind of brushed it off as like a issue that wasn't really going to be a problem because
Right.
it was just a coil pad.
All right.
Well, it was also so the car was kind
All
of
right, so let's
So
rewind
yeah,
here.
rewind a little
What
bit.
did you guys do to
Right, right.
prepare for grid life?
I did briefly investigate said issue with Will.
Mhm.
I'm going to throw you under the bus with me here.
Yeah.
So, because you were
Oh,
on
this
board
was
with
the-
this decision.
I totally like had
This
like,
was the
convinced.
the,
We're like, yeah, that was it. It was just low on fuel. That was all.
the misfire issue.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, it was
Okay.
just kind of sputtery, like at wide open,
Yeah.
and then like at very low load stuff, which is kind of a sign where injectors are starting to get weird.
Yeah. Like to somebody who like maybe had never been in the car before, like probably wouldn't have noticed it.
No,
Where
absolutely.
like, oh, that was it. Do you hear it? You know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Very, very minor.
Very subtle at the time.
Yeah.
Especially
the
because
time.
that car is kind of sensory overload anyway.
Right,
It's very
right.
hard to pick up on that stuff.
Right.
But knowing the car, like, ooh, something's a little off. And then we went to drive to the gas station because like, there's not much fuel in it. Maybe that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And it cleared up on the way there. I'm like, weird. Put fuel in it, drove it around. I'm like, all right, everything's fixed. Must have just been low in fuel.
Yep.
That's weird.
Okay.
So like, all right, cool. I put tires on it, put it in the trailer, drove out to Grid Life. So that was the prep I did.
Well, it seems
did-
like you did your due diligence.
Right.
Yeah. So everything was fine. Kevin,
Kevin did less than I did.
he did.
I mean, as far as like
He's
going-
afraid to touch it. He's
I
like,
went over everything on the car, pretty much. Checked for everything, anything loose, whatever. I swapped out kind of swapped out my coolant. For
Added
full
coolant.
road courses, they don't want you to have coolant
or
in
drag
the cooling
strips
system.
or
Oh, I
any
did- I
road.
did do that, too.
Any track surface.
Yeah, it's a lot of cleanup if something goes wrong.
Yeah, and it's slippery for the people behind you. It's
Yeah.
dangerous.
So also just like draining a gallon and a half out like wasn't enough, and I needed to like start the engine and actually like push out or run a hose through it or something.
Right.
So even after I swapped it with water, it still has a pretty decent amount of coolant in it. Other than that, the thing was pretty much ready to go. I made sure I had a nice little cover on my battery terminal, my positive terminal, so now I have a nice little Amazon rubber one that's like around the cable and covers it. And
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
one of those
yeah.
events where like it's run by track day people,
Yeah,
and
there's-
it's like the drifting is kind of like a new addition to it, and so the whole
At the same time-
the strictness of safety stuff. Kevin,
Okay, so I talked to the guy that I went up to for tech was like, "Oh, you're doing drifting? Okay, yeah, we're gonna let these things slide a little bit more, but hey, this year, yeah, it seems like every car is pretty well put together, not like it's a little piece of crap or like having anything wrong with it. So they just like tugged on the tires, didn't even look at the battery. Like honestly, it was pretty
Yeah,
chill.
no,
It was
That's
very
like-
but you
relaxed.
can't count on that. I mean, you guys
Right.
did travel
That's
5
fine,
hours
right.
to
Yeah.
When you're going to something that far away and you're not people you don't like hang out with them all the time or see them all the time or whatever, they don't know what your car is, so they're gonna automatically be like, okay, I need to look this thing over pretty good. We don't want to have any incidents on the track. So
And I think everything should do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and
I feel
most
like it'll-
places do. They
yeah.
kind of know who's going, and we kind of get into that laxed group because they know us well. But we check our cars over well enough where that's not
Right.
a problem. We're not dealing with anything loose or wobbly and still trying to run the thing. But
The point that I was trying to make was to just drifting in general, depending on the group, highly dependent on the group, is a little more lax in general. I was just pointing out that like road course, like HDPE, wheel to wheel stuff is much more strict on the safety stuff, making sure everything's good. They will take the time. You have to anticipate that they will take the time to check everything.
Yeah.
But you have to anticipate
Thoroughly.
it. I
Right.
think it's the same deal. If you were going to those events frequently, they would also loop you into that same group with like, oh, your car's always been fine.
Yeah, exactly.
but it's also
Yeah.
lax in different ways. So like drifting boys, like they really care about your battery being tied down.
Yeah.
Like that's a major
I feel like we've
thing.
all seen that classic clip
Oh
of
my
the
God.
drift car that
Mhm.
yeets the battery in the trunk
bumper
and
falls
the,
off.
it's a whole spiel.
battery goes into space. and,
Yard sale.
Yeah.
So
all that stuff.
yeah.
It's just kind of funny though, because at the same time you're like that. Obviously, the whole point of drifting is to shred tires, but the tires that like people go out on course with,
Yeah.
and how sketchy they are compared. Like if you tried to go to like some road course or something
Right,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
roll up on these tires that you were going to
You're
use
gonna-
as like burners,
Right.
they would like lose their minds.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's a few things that are more important in drifting that they look for specifically than they would on like a course that you're doing like an intermediate HPDE day.
Mhm.
They're gonna be like, okay, yeah, you don't need a cage or seat belts of SA whatever FIA certification. Helmets are always a big deal, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right, for sure.
And even if they aren't a big deal, they should be to you.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
yeah, 'cause
can't
you have
just
to
It's
use
cheap insurance on your
honestly,
noggin.
Yeah, you're in charge of your
Yeah.
own safety. So
Right.
you
on a
might as
road
well.
course or any track. You can't just use a DOT motorcycle full face helmet. It needs to be
You can use that in autocross, but
Right.
that's about it.
autocross.
Yeah.
Some
Different.
autocross places.
Oh, that's fair.
Not
Yeah.
all.
Honestly,
But yeah, that was
as-
my favorite excuse for people trying to get ride-alongs
Yeah.
the whole time there. Like, hey, do we do ride-alongs? I'm like, do you bring a helmet? Like,
Yeah.
well, I have a bike helmet. I'm like, no, that's not good here. I'm like,
Right.
Yeah, that won't work.
It's not.
And
it's
no.
not.
It's a
you can't have
liability
ride-along.
on your point.
Yeah.
It's,
And I don't want some schmuck in the car for that long. I swear not.
yeah, I don't blame. Well, what was the average time limit or time?
So for
get
grid
a-
life, you're not coming back into the pits every lap. They were gridding us out on course, and it was basically hot lapping the whole time. We were
Yeah.
basically treating it as a track day. They would just stagger us so that we were away from basically the FD pros,
Right.
Because they're way faster.
Which
Well,
happened
yeah.
to me.
Yeah, they came up behind Kevin, which was really funny.
Terrifying.
I was just
I was just
laughing.
trying to drive around the corner, and they were still going faster than me. I was like, okay, you guys can go now.
I'm scared.
It was when Pollock came through the pits later. He's like,
Yeah.
I hope you weren't really freaked out by that. I'm like, well, yeah, it was kind
A
of
little
scary.
bit, yeah, a little bit.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I panicked.
Also, I'm
and,
sorry.
Grabbed the e-brake into a corner that I really just should have just pulled over and let him go by, and I just felt stupid for even trying to do anything.
So, side
Yeah.
note, you guys both make under 300 horsepower.
Oh, yeah.
And the next lowest horsepower car there was,
There was some Miata there, a turbo Miata that was running super skinny tires.
yeah, he was. I saw it was 195.
But besides that, but he was also hanging out at the Heltec booth and adjusting a tune and stuff. So he probably made it
Yeah, it was
pretty
making the
close
sauce.
to the same amount of power, if not more.
I bet he made more power than us on a much smaller tire
Right.
and lighter car. So
So
yeah, it doesn't count though.
The next least powerful car was probably 500 horsepower,
Right.
those
one day
E46s
swap
or
or
something.
whatever.
Yeah.
So full road course is not
Yeah.
not good.
300 horses is not enough for a full road course drift.
No, we learned that quickly. Luckily, it rained. Well, somewhat luckily.
You had
Sort of.
some traction
Luckily
help.
for the cars, not so luckily for us.
Yeah, the rain was it was terrible for camping, but otherwise the threshold of grip and not grip is very small,
Right.
which makes it difficult to understand. And I've never driven that car in the rain before. So
Especially when you have 1,000 horsepower cars running, spinning their tires.
Yeah, I
they're,
mean-
they're creating some dry spots out there.
Yeah.
right.
So the sketchiness of am I gonna have grip going in this corner? I don't know.
Yeah.
This
how recent,
feels like
how
ice
recent,
through half of it, and then
Yeah.
the second half is dry.
when you hit a
Whoa.
fresh turn
Many-
that someone just hit and then
Many
you hit dry
cars
pavement.
went on into the grass.
I
Yeah.
feel like everyone. I went off into the grass once.
I did
but-
too.
Okay, so we all went off in the grass. Pretty much everyone went into the grass.
Yeah, I know. Dirk had
Yeah.
even the pro guys.
Yeah, yeah.
went off in the grass.
Just
Yeah, you
the
can't-
track is unpredictable at that time, and everyone came in expecting
it.
something different.
Yeah.
So
So then we also, on top of being underpowered, I probably had the least power car there out of
Yeah.
everyone, and just in the dry, I was trying third gear,
Just couldn't do it.
it'd start to slide a little bit, and then it'd go, and then it'd just
Traction.
kind of
Yeah,
stop.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
some pretty long sweepers there too. It's you just.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the footage. That,
Kevin was
I don't know
doing work,
which one
man.
you
When I was
posted it,
riding
but-
in it, just clutch kicking the shit out of the
Yeah.
thing through the corners,
or
just trying to
makes
keep it
violent
going.
Noises. Yeah.
He was doing work,
not-
trying to keep it
not good.
sliding.
But then we also drove at night.
Yeah. How was
Ooh,
that?
boy.
well, we
Which-
didn't have much practice in the daytime before trying it
yeah,
at night.
20-minute session, right?
Yeah, and then it was dry during the day, and then it was raining at night.
Oof.
So the difference, you're okay,
They're
now it's
yeah,
wet.
we have
Okay,
track
can't
lights.
see.
You'll be fine.
No.
I mean,
Not
there was
so
3
much.
track lights, and they were pointed at not
They
helpful
were
areas.
on the corners, and that's
They were on
it.
the corners, which helped for the part of the course where spectators were. That was
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
You get off away from spectators, I have no idea where I am.
Right. I don't know. They were more they were a more focused light. It wasn't a very good floodlight. They
No.
were technically floodlights, but
Yeah.
with the addition of it being wet conditions.
Right. I was gonna say if it was dry, it would have been fine, but
Yeah.
it wasn't.
It
so.
like the light did weird things. It was very focused. It didn't like disperse very well, and like outside of like where the light was, it looked like pitch black. So
So also, if you plan on driving at dusk at all, or at night, or in the wet, it's a good idea to have like some really good lights in your car.
Mhm.
That is,
Which both of us have lights that were mediocre
Yeah.
in 1998.
right. Have some aftermarket
Well, I know damn
headlights,
well
yeah.
that the Volkswagen lights from that era are no good.
I had one
Mine
high
were
beam,
better than Kevin's, I think.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I think so.
one high beam going.
I could tell when you were coming up behind me because of the one high beam.
Yeah. But also, like, as soon as you go
looking like Forrest
sideways, you're
Whitaker.
like, okay, well, the headlights are in the grass now, and
right.
now I really can't see where I'm going.
Yeah.
So, but then there was that guy that had like light bars across his
that
entire
guy
bumper,
sucked.
which made it very hard for us to see as he's behind you, and also he probably could see great.
Right.
So
I'm sure he could see
angled
fine.
light bars, whatever.
But yeah, I couldn't see dick. It was awful.
I wouldn't want to.
I wouldn't have known. I mean, I guess it was a positive the whole weekend.
All right, which direction do we want to go with this? Do we want to
Prep
keep
side
talking
of
towards
things.
the grid life
Well,
thing?
we
or do
haven't
wanna
even
take a
talked
turn
about-
and
so,
go
I mean,
towards
No,
so-
I think we need to go into the issues and the kind of what you would do to prep your car. Because I mean,
Right. So before we go into like the actual mechanical issues, because I feel like that's a whole different. Since we're on this like trying to figure out dry versus wet.
well, because there's some things you can't anticipate, and that's kind of what I want to touch on.
I know
But-
that, yeah. And everything that I think happened with your car, like there was nothing really you can do other than maybe try a little bit harder to diagnose the little misfire issue before we left. But
Before we
it
left.
did go away.
So, yeah, we wouldn't have been
what are
able
you
to
gonna
catch
do?
anything. So
Aside from that, though, I was gonna say maybe this was a good opportunity to like, while it's not so much a forethought, but like, how do you adapt to driving in those different conditions? It was going from day to night to wet to dry. Like,
You don't.
You just
I don't know.
Well, for
Yeah,
the-
you gotta figure it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, I
Okay,
feel
well-
like at the level that you guys are drifting at, right? So like grassroots drifting is essentially what it is, right?
Yeah, this
so it's
event,
like,
put
so
me in
it's
my
like,
place, and I
yeah.
was
So
like,
you don't,
oh,
you
wow.
don't, you don't have a full trailer. You don't have multiple different tire compounds for different weather like rain and
yeah,
whatnot.
the
like
simulator doesn't
Oh,
let you do
no,
that
yeah.
dark.
Don't worry. Shane Whaley,
Yeah.
showed up on
Yeah.
his junk van, like
Hey,
kind of junk
he might
trailer,
not think his van's junk.
with like 1,000
He knows.
horsepower LS swapped Mustang that's like Pro 1 ready basically,
Yeah.
and like he had the same level of stuff we had as far as
I don't- yeah,
accessibility. and
I
the
really
dude's
feel like
a shredder.
with drifting and stuff like that, you can't. Weather predictions are good, but I don't think there's a lot to combat them.
Well,
in
I'm
that
not saying
type
it
of
even
setting.
necessarily applies to just drifting or whatever, but like suppose you were signed up for the time attack stuff.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
what do you do? Like in terms of picking a tire for drifting, you go to a grippier tire when it's wet and a smaller tire when it's dry, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of
Lights,
different
lights.
things. Yeah.
Obviously, you already mentioned would have been a
Power.
helpful upgrade.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's really hard to. I mean,
You didn't give it a
going now
second
and
thought, thinking that like, oh yeah, there's going to be a night session. Sick. You
Right.
just assume that
Yeah.
there's going to be good light. You
I've
know?
driven the car at night. I was like,
Right.
it wasn't terrible. It was.
Yeah, I assumed there would be better lighting.
Right. I mean, you brought a diff, right? But like,
Yeah. Yeah, I could have swapped the diff. That might have helped marginally.
If it were dry, that
just
might have
a
been
wee
worth
bit.
it. But since it was
if
wet,
there
it
was,
kinda
I would
like-
say if there was more run time, I would have
yeah. How many runs? did you
strongly
guys-
supported you doing that and helped. But
How many
it's
times
just-
did you guys actually get a run? Or
so they didn't even go through a set of tires.
Well, yeah, I
still
could
have
have
them all.
though. Like if it weren't wet, I would have.
Yeah,
I know.
okay.
I'm just saying, but you didn't.
I
Makes
missed
sense.
like 2 run groups. There was a lot more driving than we thought.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
like
Keep in mind, this is
on
also
paper, it
two-
looked
2.2 mile.
well, right. It's a huge
Road
track. There's
course?
probably a ton of people, right? There's how many different classes are there? There's
None.
for drifting. There's
so-
one.
Just
Drifting.
one? Okay.
Drifting was
Well, no,
considered
I
an
mean, I don't mean
exhibition
just drifting. I mean,
for this event.
how many different people are using the track at once?
No, on the schedule we had like 3 hours of drive time.
Okay.
So we're like, oh, okay, that's not that much.
Right.
But I didn't realize it's 3 hours nonstop. Like you're basically
Oh.
not
Yeah, you're
stationary at
Okay,
any,
yeah, that
any
makes
moment.
sense.
You're out there. and
I
at
thought they
least
would be running like
hour sessions
part
on
of
some
the
them.
course, and then
Mhm.
the rest
Right.
of it you just kind of drive, and then you sit and wait till they send off certain groups or whatever. But
Right.
no, it was like
the whole time.
basically
Yeah,
just
everybody
like
out.
full roll.
Yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead and
Yeah.
go. Yeah, have fun.
I never went below third gear once we were out there because it was like I was rolling through the start guy.
Right.
And when we come back up to him, he's like, "All right, keep going."
Yeah.
I'm like, "All right, well, I just stayed in third. I just never slowed down the whole time." So,
I guess I'll keep going.
yeah,
Yeah.
So not really prepared for that, but also
I didn't have any issues with that, luckily.
Yeah, if you think about it, like, I mean, yeah, you guys have hot lapped your car in
Yeah.
much higher temperatures too, so they were likely fine, but never hot lapped like that.
I've
So, like,
always had
nah,
issues
nah.
hot lapping in high temperatures.
But it was very cold.
yeah.
so-
Luckily, it was cold. It was in the
Well, what
40s.
it was 40s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was nice for driving, not for camping.
Yeah.
So what I would take out of all this is like consider the conditions, which I don't think we really did at all. In
I
terms
think
of
around this time of year, it's
any
really
aspect
kind of hard
this.
to
Yeah.
kind of
No, you-
guesstimate what's going on.
it's got to be ready for the wild card, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't even
If
know
you
if
think
that's
you
like
don't
the
need
big
it, you
deal.
probably need
Like,
it.
I wouldn't consider that we were unprepared for the weekend. Like, I don't think I would have been any better prepared otherwise. Like, there's nothing else that, like,
I think we got lucky
I would've put some
because
sick
I
light
was
bars
gonna
in my
say
car.
like not
Yeah.
just for the cars and like for setting up the cars and everything, but like had it been warmer, it probably would have had to like pit for a little bit, cool things down, things
Yeah.
like that. It wasn't an issue. If we didn't have your trailer to sleep in, there was going to be a big issue with the temperature. Thank God we borrowed the propane heater from Dave. You were a godsend, but like,
Wait, you guys,
it
hold,
was-
hold on.
we did not sleep with the heater.
Okay, good.
no.
I was
Well,
gonna say,
we
did you
kicked it
put
on every once in a while in the trailer, but it was so cold.
It's got vents. We're fine.
Yeah, you're fine. It's just propane.
But like, dude, that would
That
have been
little
rough.
that little thing works.
It does.
Pretty. It's pretty
Yeah.
good.
I was in a
Kevin's
tent
like, I was
outside,
in
it was
10, it
fine.
was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elise begs to differ.
30s.
I was a blanket shy of being comfortable for sure. But
Yeah.
So that
but
was my
camping's
point.
a
It
whole
was
other
like
thing.
that-
That's
that-
not the track day prep I think we need to touch on.
all right.
Well, I
Wasn't
think. Well,
contributing.
that's
I'm saying, like-
it's all encompassed. I mean, we're not just talking maintenance stuff here. I mean, like we're talking all of it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've gone to like the autocrosses and stuff where it's like a super spicy day where I'm like,
Yeah.
don't bring jack shit. I'm hungover in the morning. Don't have drinks. Don't have lunch. Don't
Right.
have nothing. And horrible time. But like coming with water and like a chair to sit in
Yep.
and like a hat or like just those are make the experience remarkably better. So
oh yeah.
that was my point. The
You can never be
conditions, but-
underprepared for track events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Especially like I
Well,
said.
You mean
especially-
over-prepared?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
So-
Because you could
Overprepared.
definitely be
You
under
100%
Yeah, you can definitely be
Try me.
underprepared.
Yeah. But as far as car prep goes,
Yeah.
like I at least always try to nut and bolt my car
Yeah.
in between big things. Like if it's a local drift thing, I might not. If it was not making funny noises, I might not go into there. But otherwise, I'll kind of go underneath. I check like the rear link bolts and like
Right.
a couple things that I found that tend to get loose. And otherwise, kind of just do a general browse. I'm like, oh, I remember going off track over this curb. What's
Right.
underneath over
Yeah.
there look
Yeah.
like?
I feel
So-
like I feel like track prep in general is relative to, I guess, how well maintained your vehicle is, or
Right,
how
but
much
it's-
time you put into maintaining.
It's not
it or
like
keeping
maintaining it though. Like I haven't changed the oil in that car since I built it.
it. Right.
Like I don't know. I make sure there's oil in it.
I mean,
Yeah,
strictly from like
it's
a.
not so what we see a lot is people showing up to drift events and their car like barely runs and like
Yeah.
you're like maybe he has all his wheel bolts. I don't know, just like stupid basic things that
Yeah.
like, you can do to make your car like halfway reliable. I don't know.
make sure
maybe-
everything's tight. Like
Yeah,
Make sure
That-
you're
that's the
not
biggest
throwing
thing is-
batteries out of your trunk.
well, it's not even that. Like someone just changed a water pump, the pulley's loose, and the thing falls off halfway into a run.
Oof.
There's always like some dumb
Ooh,
thing
crank
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always something dumb like that happens.
Yeah.
So it's like just
Well, I think it's a
Be
lot of things that
thorough.
are just missed, right?
for sure. I mean, it's not you intentionally.
No,
like,
no.
left
I
it
mean,
loose.
we've all been there. We're in a rush to get something done.
Mhm.
You know, you tighten every bolt except one, and like that one ends up failing. And
Or
then
you
it's
don't get a
big-
chance to really thoroughly test the last thing you messed
Right.
with. You're like, I really need to do this. But,
Or this goes back to
delay.
episode whatever. You work on too many things at once,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you have no idea
Mhm.
what the issue is once it happens.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. If you have the time and the issue doesn't come up 2 days before the event,
yeah.
like do your
Well, let's be honest here.
Well, I think whatever the thing we talked about before is whatever you last touched,
Yeah.
make sure it's not that. Like, or at least double check it. Like, I don't know,
Right.
water pump bolts, something like that. After an event, I'll check the pulley again.
Yeah.
Make sure it's still tight. Kind of the same thing like around my fuel pump thing when I did that. Like, I made sure all those bolts were tight again because
Mhm.
the gasket might have settled, whatever it was, because I made all that shit. Who knows? And, it's just a general comprehension of, like, what you just did. Did anything just change? Because, like, it was fine before that, but you just made it. So this is the first test session of it. Make sure it's still in the condition you thought it was.
Right.
But it doesn't always work that way. For instance, all the issues I had.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Issue 1.
issue 1. What was issue 1?
I don't know actually.
Oh,
Did
fuel
you have
cell.
I was
That
gonna
was-
say you didn't have a misfire issue.
I did, but it was kind of strange, and we were still trying to figure it out.
Gotcha. Okay.
But then I got a text from the guys at Hawk at, like, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning when they were walking the pits when they showed up. Like, hey, your car is actively leaking a lot of fuel. I'm like, oh, great. So I get out of bed, and I go out there and look. I'm like, yep,
Get
sure
out of the
is.
trailer.
And it, like, ate a hole in the pavement, like, in the pits area at
Oh.
Gingerman. Like,
Totally
Oh,
destroyed anything that was bonding that
yeah,
asphalt
all the
together.
asphalt it's just rocks. So
Oh.
it was bad. So I turned the car around to kind of make it look like it wasn't leaking there, and put the car into the grass. And
A good
the
old
whole-
switcheroo.
Yeah,
Wasn't me.
well, me. The whole bottom of one side of the fuel cell had cracked at a weld.
Oh no.
Shout out
Yeah.
to eBay.
Yeah, shout out to my eBay fuel cell.
Yeah.
This is what you get.
They are good. I mean, it's
The
for the
chances- I mean,
Yeah.
we've had a good run.
good
Yeah,
Good.
for the
Well,
price. It's
yeah,
one
for
of
the
those things.
price.
yeah. I don't know.
It's not
But-
what you're getting into.
Exactly. Turned into a little bit of a fiasco, but pulled. So Will and I household, and Kevin too. We kind of just dove in there, drained the fuel, pulled the fuel pump,
Yep.
did all that. Like, pulled the fuel cell, found someone with a welder, paid to have it welded, put it all back together, and then we're back to the same misfire issue I thought I had heard the night before.
Oh no.
No, it's like, oh.
So
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Coincidentally, like, it was running fine up until then, right?
Right.
You ran, like, at night session, like, you were one of the few cars still out for the entire hour,
right.
and everyone else was, like, either broken or
I think
really
at that
fed up with the traction issues, so they just didn't want to keep
Right.
doing
And
it.
I was just like entertained with trying to figure it out. And there's like one back corner I was trying to work
You
up the
spent,
balls
like,
to do
a
in the
full
rain.
hour out there, parked it, and then boom, issues.
Right.
I think at that point though there had been the very like intermittent every once in a while. What, did it misfire again?
Yes,
Like, I remember
definitely.
hearing that. Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely remember
before
that, too.
before it cracked.
It's normal, though. Like, you know, like,
it wasn't that normal for the car, but I'm like, I've never driven this car in the rain before.
But, right.
That's the other thing. So like,
things do get funny in that.
Things
Yeah,
get funny in the
it's
rain.
true.
Cars make weird noises.
Moisture really
like,
does. It does. It's
Can make your exhaust vibrate weird. Like, it's getting cooled at the same time. It's hot. And
Right.
It's growing
You
in
had
makes
me
places.
hyper-
when you
sensitive about
park
my
it and it's
fuel
wet and
filter-
it just
air
makes all
filter.
those crackly
Clinky.
noises and you're
Tink, 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 tink.
and you're just like
Everything's
"Oh."
breaking.
Yeah.
yeah. So that's what my sensitivity to that was kind of like, I guess maybe this car does this when it's wet.
Right.
I don't know. So then we were trying
Yeah,
to
it could just be
chase-
like little moisture getting in like a spark plug well or something
Yeah, it
like
could
that
be-
with
it
the
could be the-
coil.
the
like,
silliest
that was the
thing.
first thing we started chasing because I brought extra coils because I was like, maybe I had a weak coil and it finally dried out, and that's why it went away when we test drove the car.
Right.
So I brought some spares.
Shout out to the diagnostic episode we did, because we went, like, full bore in a circle on trying to figure this thing out.
Right, basically, so like, well, I just touched this, so it must
Yeah.
have been that.
yeah.
And I think it was in a roundabout way, but I guess we
Right.
can get to that in a minute. But like, we chased it through the coil packs, swapped those around, didn't follow the coil pack.
Right.
Man, it
Like, all right,
sounds like
that's
that one
weird.
issue I had
Spark
that one
plugs.
time that was annoying.
Yeah, we swapped spark plugs, didn't follow those. Like, all right, not good. So it's either engine bad things happening.
So we're gonna ignore that.
So we're gonna ignore that one because we can't do anything about it.
Right.
Or injector. I'm like, all right, that sounds like a mess because it's a bunch of fuel, whatever. So we swapped those around, and it followed the injector.
Mind
Ooh.
you, we're
Well, we
leaving out a
cleaned them.
whole other issue with the fuel pump like randomly not coming on.
Yeah, like, the fuel pump doesn't come on correctly unless it's, like,
that
in the tank
has not
or
happened
something.
since, and I don't know what to
I
think
don't
about
know.
that.
I just
We did go
We
down
spent,
a
like,
rabbit hole.
there was
there.
a goose chase and a half there.
2 hours of taking the fuel pump out,
Ugh.
like, disconnecting it, checking the signal
It's
at
like
the connector,
straight to battery
checking
voltage, like
the hose from the pump to the, like, actual line.
Doof.
making
Yeah.
sure it hadn't like swelled shut or
Nothing.
something stupid.
It seemed like the pump was, like, dying, so we were like, oh, the fuel
Yeah.
pump's dead. But
yeah,
we ended up just putting it back in the car,
And it's
and
fine.
then
it was fine.
worked.
Like,
Weird.
After,
Alright.
which
after
now
trying
in
to-
hindsight, I think I understand more. But so, as a backstory, what I think caused this whole mess, now that I'm thinking back, is so I originally made this surge tank because I was having fuel cell issues. Put it all together. Surge tank worked great. Like 2 events into this summer, the gasket I made for the top had split and was leaking a little bit of fuel. I like siliconed it for one event. I'm like, all right, I need to cut out a new gasket. Cut out a new one. When I pulled the fuel cell, the surge tank out of the fuel cell, I think some rubber crumbs got into the tank for sure.
Oh yeah.
And then I put it all back together, and I'm not vacuuming out a tank full
There's
of fuel.
also some aluminum shavings in there from.
There was also a bunch of aluminum shavings from when I made the hole in the fuel cell for said surge tank. But I think it's more the rubber than the.
This is
Okay,
why we
I'm
have.
just saying,
this is why
your,
we
your
have
filter,
fuel pump socks.
your filter sock
That-
was prickly.
It was prickly, so a bunch of that stuff did go through there. But then, yeah, once we swapped everything on the tank again, I don't know. I guess there was no rubber that time we cleaned it. There was rubber in the tank, but that was because
That having to get it welded,
we
it
had
was
it cleaned
out
again.
pretty well.
Yeah, so I think the rubber in the tank is what started plugging the injectors.
Chicken
'Cause
or
it's
the
like
egg.
it's breaking down in the fuel. It was because
Is it breaking?
It's
Oh,
breaking- it gets-
100%.
it gets
Because
jelly.
well, look at this
Turns into,
little
like,
fuel
liquid.
line that goes from the pump to the bulkhead. It's like all squishy
Yeah,
and
that's
weird.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a future problem,
Yeah.
but not a now
I mean,
problem.
he's got a sock. There's a filter on the pump, right? Or is that the sock?
It's
that
filter
is-
after the pump. The
Yeah.
sock
Okay.
is the filter.
So there's a
pre-pump.
filter after that,
right?
Which
and
we
it-
never
so
cleaned.
It got
we never
through
cleaned.
all of that.
and then
into
plug
the
the
injector.
injectors. Yeah,
Oof.
Granted, those injectors have been in that motor for how long?
320,000
Okay.
miles.
So, I mean, let's be honest here. You'd expect some crap to be in there. by
yeah,
then.
exactly. And it's been in. This is its 3rd car that this engine's been in. So, stuff happens. Nonetheless, we cleaned all the injectors
Right.
at the event. Got it. It revved great.
Yeah,
Sounded
Like,
great.
Put power to them, back flush them with brake clean, forward flushed them.
sketchy, but it worked.
Yeah.
There was some like
think?
sparking alligator
Right?
clips spraying brake clean that really sketched me out for a minute. But other than that,
Around the puddle of
Been
gas
there.
that had just leaked out of the
Yeah.
fuel
Right.
cell when it
While-
had cracked. Like, dude, there was
While
flammables
it's-
everywhere.
while it's in
This
my
is
hand,
not OSHA
Yeah, while we're
approved.
heating ourselves with a propane heater. No, I'm just kidding. We didn't have the propane heater on there.
not then.
No.
But yeah. So Will and I went out. We made 2.5 clean laps of
Yeah,
it, having
it was
all
solid.
the power, sounded mint, everything was great, and then it went back to.
It was
being
funny. It was because it
poopy.
was like at least a lap. Like, didn't say anything to each other. We're like, I don't want to say it.
I know, it was-
I don't want
yeah.
to say it. Second lap, we're like, okay.
It's
I think it's
pretty
fixed.
good.
It was
It's
good
fixed.
for that whole session, right?
And then it was-
I went.
Immediately after
No?
that, nope, shouldn't have said it.
So
Yeah.
what happened? Because
Jinx
I
it.
went with you during the night session.
No, it was before that. That was before the.
It was the
fuel
next
cell.
session. It was like 6:00. No, it wasn't. It was
Yeah.
after.
It was after.
Because it was good for one lap, and then it was done. It was
Yes.
full misfire again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we still have the issue then.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't touched the car since. Well, I put a fuel pressure gauge on the car, and it is not fuel pressure.
So we have a drift event.
And I
in
changed
a
the crank sensor.
A week and a half.
Did you change the crank
I
sensor?
had a spare one. I changed the crank sensor because I was like, oh, that's on the bottom of the motor. I had
It's
the
easy.
engine
Oh,
kicking
yeah.
around.
Single
I bet I
bolt.
crunched it, and then it was getting wet.
Because you went off when you went back home, right? To that one drift event.
Not
pretty
even that.
hard.
I think even before I put it in the car, like the car's never been in the wet, and
Yeah.
that's where the engine sits
Mm-hmm.
is like basically on the crank sensor. So I was like, maybe I crunched it and had a crack in it. Got some water in there. It was acting up. So I had a spare. Put that in there. Exactly the same.
Oh,
Couldn't have
that's
cared
a
less.
bummer.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yep.
Sort of.
sort of it would have been easier.
Right.
So we're back to where we are.
Yeah.
More
We have
diagnostics.
the Club Blues season finale, so you have a week and a half to figure it out.
What-
You're gonna get some pull your injectors.
What
and
day is that?
Send them to the
25th.
And that's
you know,
at
local
Erie.
whatever boys,
Pit
Pit
race.
race. Yep.
local injector
Okay.
cleaner boys or whatever.
I
Yeah,
think I'm
it's-
going to do it myself again because the local injector cleaner people are more expensive than fresh out of injectors.
Okay. Well, all right, that's fair. But at the same time, like, I wouldn't say. I'd say we made a significant difference to the amount of crap that was in there. So the fact that the issue wasn't catastrophic and then came back less bad, it's pretty much stayed the same, even though we.
It's an improvement.
I think
No, there wasn't an improvement.
There wasn't.
Oh,
I mean,
zero
it worked for
improvement.
a while. It was an improvement for a
It
while.
went back to
Yeah,
100%
it came right
for
back.
sure.
It went
Yeah,
back
but-
to 100%.
There was like a couple laps where it was.
There's got to be just some
immediately
stuff
after
floating
cleaning
around.
every
Okay.
injector.
If we made a marginal difference in the amount of crap that was in the injectors, like, okay, so they should still run like it did before with a decent amount of stuff in there, not like a ton, whatever.
I think my fuel filter is plugged with junk, which
Maybe
we didn't
that's
look
it.
at.
Yeah,
And then that's what's.
I wouldn't look at the
distributing.
injectors though. At this point,
I think
I'd
it's
be
too
like,
late. I think they're full of crud again. But I do need to start with the fuel filter.
Maybe the fuel filters.
These are
falling
all
apart like, my eBay
free-ish
fuel.
things to like go back and clean it and try. So
It's an eBay fuel filter.
Right.
Or
Yeah, maybe
Amazon.
it's falling apart like my old fuel cell was.
yeah,
and-
like there's this foam
Yeah.
in it, and it's just goo.
It's not foam, but
But I
yeah.
mean,
Maybe.
with the eBay stuff, you can't
possible.
trust it.
No. Well,
It's good for a
some
lot of
it.
things, but
Or it's just something completely different. I don't know.
right.
yeah, there's not too many other things.
Diagnostics.
You got to wire.
Diagnostics. So we got
gotta
to start
wire
where we
somewhere
left
that's
off.
Like,
Right.
You know, arcing sometimes.
But this is a little like rabbit hole-ish. So while this is a looming issue for your
Yes.
car,
Yes, it is not a great example.
Again, there was
it's
not-
an
there was
example of how you cannot account for everything, like the crack in the fuel cell.
Oh, you can't. Absolutely.
like there's no way you're going to be prepared for every little thing.
no.
yeah,
But
and
you
the
can-
misfire issue had gone away immediately prior to the event. Like there was no way to diagnose it at that time, honestly, because it had kind of gone away.
Right.
It was something to make you a little bit nervous, I guess. But like maybe you could prepare a little bit more because of you just had an issue, but like seriously without knowing what it was. Short of bringing spare coils, which I don't know if you would have done otherwise.
True. Which I now am going to keep a box of spares in the trailer. That's kind of I started piecing together some spare stuff I had. The
Yeah.
Yeah,
crank
they have no
sensors, some
no
other-
place in your garage, honestly. So
Yeah, might
trailer's
as
a
well.
perfect place for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Um,
It's one of those things to stay on top of. Like I have been keeping a spare set of like the rear on that car uses some pretty large wheel spacers that bolt on and wheel adapters, and I have a spare set of those. And that I did break a stud when I was back home at that Connecticut event because I
Oh,
was
yeah.
a little reckless with the impact. So one of the threads galled up, and then I just railed it on, and I
those
did
are
snap
also
one
like
off.
eBay spacers, aren't they?
Yeah,
or Amazon or
yeah,
whatever.
I'm not saying it's not my own fault, but
Yeah.
I wanted a spare for that, so now I keep that with me.
Yeah.
It's just things like that you consider wear items should be
Yeah.
Yep.
paid attention to. On a drift car, I don't think brakes are that big of a deal, but on a track car, you definitely pay attention to brakes a lot more.
For sure. You'll have a bad time.
Yeah,
Like-
line health, fluid health, all that type of thing. Just
Yep.
keeping an eye on all that. But
Yeah, like prep for the circumstance. I would say, like depending on obviously the type of racing you're going to do is going to kind of you're going to cater your preparation to that a little more specifically. Like drift event, aside from having a shitload of tires, like ideally, so you don't run out and waste your time and money. Yeah, some basic stuff like that. Like there's a higher possibility that you're going to break a stud because you're changing out wheels and tires more often, and stupid stuff. Versus a track day, which obviously are a lot harder on brakes and things like that. Having a spare set of, pads and a rotor or two, probably a pretty good idea.
and
or
if
even
you're
a
running
caliper.
wheel studs, like
Yeah.
Yep.
wheel studs as well. Stay up on your tire pressures.
Yeah.
Spare tire is always nice.
Yep.
Random assortment of some hardware if you can get it. Like there's a couple bolts I found that were missing on my intake, like for the fuel rail. I was like, ooh, wish I had some spares in the trailer for this.
Hardware is tough.
Hardware is tough, but like if you could just keep a couple around,
Or at least zip ties.
yeah, at least always a box of zip ties.
Yeah.
I did pretty good on tools. I brought pretty much everything that you didn't have.
Yeah,
As far as,
collectively we had everything.
Harbor Freight's they have currently, I mean, everything's on sale, but they do have like a super coupon for one of those, like the identical Harbor Freight version of like that Husky toolkit you have and bring to drift events. And I was like, I should probably go get one of those because
Yeah, that was handy.
That's pretty solid. Yeah.
Just a general, basic socket. You're pretty much your like run of the mill like Home Depot
Yeah,
generic.
it's considered like a
mechanics
mechanics tool set or whatever.
Yeah.
set. The Husky one is pretty good. I think they sell it at Home Depot. It's got specifically like some things that most don't have. It's got 6 points and 12 points.
That's nice.
Some
Right.
wrenches. It's got like your
It's shallow and deep,
your drive. Yeah,
which
shallow
is
and
more
deep.
important than you think.
It's got your 3 different socket sizes, your screwdriver with a bunch of different bits. You have like T30 bit, and also like the driver for that in case you need to put the 1/4 inch or something on it.
Yep.
One of those like Walmart or like Home Depot general tool sets is a
You can
good
spend
thing to
under.
just keep in your truck
Yeah.
no matter what, and just
Yeah.
Don't
always
take it
have
out. Don't take
Right.
it out. It can't be your main tool set. Stays in the truck.
Yep.
But yeah, like under $100, and you can get like a pretty solid one for sure.
Yeah,
So.
that was worthwhile.
I agree. I've used it many a time.
Yeah,
Yours in particular. That's what I was like saying. I gotta go get my own. But
Otherwise, fluids.
Yeah,
I always
fluids,
keep
yeah.
that. And I used a large portion of my spare oil just because I hadn't checked it before I left. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm down on oil.
Yeah, that was on the to-do list. I mean, it was
Yeah.
the intent was there to check before we left, but
Not the
worried
car.
about all the other stuff to remember. Well, the truck. And,
I never checked the truck. I still
and
haven't checked it.
in the trailer.
I mean, yeah, my car consumed more oil than I expected. It just kind of like goes away. I don't know where it goes. It doesn't smoke or
That's
anything.
it. Mine does the same thing. It doesn't smoke, but like it's
I
going
didn't
somewhere.
drive that much, and reset the odometer before we went on track, and I put over 50 miles on it.
Yeah,
So
it's surprising.
50 miles of drifting. Like, you think about how long it takes to drive 50 miles on a highway or whatever.
That's a lot of wide open throttle time too.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
more than
All-
normal. So of course
all
you're
wide
gonna be burning oil and other shit like that. So
So normally it would have been 25 laps on that track,
Right.
but it was not 25 laps.
no,
Right.
Granted, my wheel speed wasn't much higher than what I was,
right,
how fast I was actually going.
right,
Just barely
But just
drifting.
a little bit. Well,
So yeah, aside from obviously the mechanical stuff, having some tools, spares, and
Multimeter.
maybe like multimeter.
Yeah,
Because
multimeter
I
is
didn't bring
important.
one,
Yeah.
and that bit me. Luckily, Kevin had one.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it wasn't
Well,
mine.
you did.
Shout
out to Shane.
I figured out what was wrong with
Yeah.
it, and it works now.
Oh, did you?
I just needed to. Apparently, you need to plug the ground not into the middle one that says "com,"
Oh,
which is dumb, but
Okay.
that's just how it works. It's just an Amazon
okay.
thing. So
Yeah, definitely very, very handy. Specific. Yeah, like I don't know why it seems
Of
like
course,
that's
you go for a multimeter. You're like common ground, yes,
Yeah.
black, and no, that's apparently not how this one works. So
yeah.
know how to use
in
it
terms
also.
of not at home diagnostics, that is a small yet very valuable tool.
right,
So
$15 on
definitely
Amazon.
worth the space. And yeah, and you can buy a cheap one yet. It doesn't have to be the most accurate thing in the world, but it's going to be
It'll tell you some pass-fail stuff.
Sure,
That's kind of
for
what
sure.
we're looking at.
Yeah.
So.
cheap enough. You can buy one just to throw in the trailer. You can leave your nice one at home, or truck or whatever.
Keep it in your tool bag for the track, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But yeah, short of that, so maybe like, things pertaining to the last thing you touched.
right.
Whatever that
always,
may be.
yes.
you know.
Check it
Um,
again. It's just worth it.
Wow.
And I'm still a firm believer in, personal items, that like water and food and like
Those things do make the day better.
Blankets.
it's blankets, yeah, heaters.
Something that I'll say is I've saved other people with, but I haven't used personally, is I usually take a fair assortment of hoses
Oh yeah.
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 Yep.
and just like whatever I've collected from, I bought too much and then I have extra, so I just put it on the shelf. Okay, well, when I go to an event, I just grab, put my arm on the back of the shelf and kind of shove whatever I have into the bucket, and then 9 times out of 10, like, I end up helping
Just
more
run your
people
arm across
yeah.
the shelf
than
like,
what I
into this
need.
bucket. Like,
Yeah, like most of the time, I really don't need anything, and I fill up like 2 5-gallon buckets of tools.
better
That's
knock
what I
on that
use.
pallet over there or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at
But
this
yeah,
point,
a little
I'm
chunk
kind
of
of
fuel
expecting
hose,
it.
stuff like that.
Right.
That is always what someone's asking for, like hose clamps, little dumb things like that, because you
Yeah.
just split one. So
And then don't be a dick when people need stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a big thing. A lot of people are kind of
Try to help people out.
Right.
I don't know.
People
That's
don't
my
do that a
attitude
whole
about
lot.
it is if someone needs something and I'm there, like,
all right.
if I have the option of something I'm not currently using, like by all means.
either replace it or like give me a few beers or something. I don't
Right.
care. Just like I'm not there to be like,
Yeah,
oh,
this isn't a
you
charity,
need-
but
you
at the
need
same
this?
time, like, I'm not-
Ooh,
yeah.
Well, you could go down to the race shop or maybe tomorrow and spend $100 on this, or I have this little piece of hose here. Give me like $100 for it. No, I'm not.
No.
Just don't be
that's-
that guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, because you would expect the same, the same kind of treatment, right? Like if you had an issue,
You'd
you
hope
would,
so.
you would
Yeah,
hope that
it
someone
doesn't
would be
work that
nice.
way.
No,
No.
it doesn't. And you can't be accountable for everybody else, but you being, more than willing to give up what you can to help other people out is usually pretty good.
I get excited when I like have something
yeah.
that somebody needs. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I
The
got
amount
you,
that-
dude.
Yeah,
like,
whenever you're like,
it's never me, but like,
right. when you don't need it, like, I need this
More
one
often
piece
than
of hose,
not,
and you're
I'm
like,
like
oh, do you
ill-prepared,
need help
but-
putting it on too, or like,
Right.
do you want me to hover while you do this, or
Oh,
Well, it's
just kidding.
exciting.
You know, I actually don't need it anymore, and
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. If you're gonna hover, I'll
Yeah.
just find it
Tuck you
somewhere else.
past
No, what I'm saying is like when stuff like that happens, it's an opportunity to get to know people, that
And
are,
it's a
you
pay
know,
it
into
forward.
same
It's the
stuff, yeah.
community you want to be a part of.
Oh, I do
Yes.
it just for that karma.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, if nothing else.
But
Another good.
Do you have
juju.
any show suggestions, Dave? Because that was something you wanted to touch on.
similar stuff. Make sure.
Microfibers.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I mean,
big
you
detail.
are driving the Corrado 4.5 hours longer than it's ever gone.
Yes.
Coming this week.
yeah,
And what
this
are
weekend.
you doing?
So I'm gonna go through all of it tonight. I mean, there's really not a whole lot that can go wrong. I'm gonna take an extra coil pack.
Now you better knock on that pallet.
Yeah, you're right.
You should be driving that thing to work every day this week.
Well,
Absolutely.
that's why I went to drive it to work today.
Oh, and it was broken.
Yes. Per the usual.
Well.
So I back it out and I'm like, why does it sound so choppy? And I'm like, what the and I hear like, tss, and one of the big vacuum lines on the intake manifold is like, you got a giant split in it. It's just vacuum leaking everywhere. So I gotta go home and fix that. I'm gonna take ignition coils with me and a set of ignition wires. Probably
Not the ones that were causing you problems before,
No.
though, right?
You'll take some hoses with you because
Probably some hose. I have a spare set of hoses. That and maybe a fuel filter and some other stuff. But honestly, other than that, I kind of really, luckily, nothing or hopefully nothing goes wrong. But we'll see what happens here. I know the stuff that I should be taking.
We're going to hear about it if anything does. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
You know, it's one thing I just was reminded of. Like, if you have a distributor car
Yeah.
and they start misfiring when it's wet,
Oh,
can
for
a WD-40.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I did-
Well, that's
Or not even distributor cars. I mean,
Yeah.
that helps
I
with
guess any
the
ignition
plug wire.
well because
Yeah.
I've done that
Yeah.
with the Corrado too. Because there's the year before that is a distributor car, but mine is a coil pack car, and even those coil packs, if they have a tendency to crack, the stock ones, just because the location on the engine's bad. And if you hit those with WD-40, it generally will fix the issue at least for
Water
the time
displacer,
being.
you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
WD?
W.
Water displacing.
WD? Up
Yep.
to
40 of them.
40
40.
degrees?
40.
40th try? I forget what it is.
I thought it was like the 40th formula or something like
Something
that.
like
I
that.
don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, no, yeah, that's right. It's the
Okay.
40th formula.
It works very well at that.
It does.
It's a terrible lubricant.
It's
No,
not
it
a
isn't.
lubricant.
It's not a lubricant.
It's not.
Water,
It's
water
water
displacer.
Yeah.
All right, that's why.
So yeah, I mean, general
Public service announcement.
All right.
I'm just saying
Not
that's a
freaking
great one
lubricant. Yeah.
for misfires if you're going on a trip and you have something that like
Well, that's what
is prone to it.
the
like
1 year-
Volkswagen products. A can of WD is probably something you should.
That's like
keep around.
whenever you hear zip ties, duct tape, and WD-40, it's usually pretty accurate.
But yeah,
for the
but
most part. 'Cause
actually
I have used
very
those
helpful.
things in
Yeah.
those in that circumstance.
Maybe-
I've used them at all.
Maybe
but-
throw a set of vice grips in there too, because I
Vice
mean you can
grips,
fix a lot of
yeah.
stuff.
Device grips, the
Yeah.
universal wrench, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean just general stuff.
Again,
like
life or death though. I'm
personal
not a big fan
items.
otherwise.
Agreed.
Make sure you have your tools and stuff, microfibers to wash and whatnot, and it's a little less prep because you're not, you're going there to park.
Yeah.
You're not
hard park.
going to.
Hard part.
You're not going to.
How do you hard park versus soft park?
I would assume that's just parking over the line, right?
Dude, I don't know,
actually
Dave.
know.
That was a serious question.
Well, I don't know. I don't actually
hard park,
know.
you got to like turn the wheel a little bit. Maybe you
Yeah,
like
Kevin would
adjusted
know.
your coilovers so they're lower than
Okay.
normal. I don't
Okay.
know.
Dang.
Well, I
Pull
mean,
any
if you're
wheels
if
in the
you're an-
parking spot?
if you're
I
an
don't
air
know.
kid, you just
Oh
pull
yeah,
over
you
the
can't
line.
drive there
Yeah.
on those wheels. Yeah, maybe,
Mm.
maybe.
Sounds like our shop Mark V.
You can.
You
They just
shouldn't.
don't like it because they're expensive.
That
Well,
they
and
don't
they
hold
leak.
air.
I don't think it's.
They
the
also
expen-
leak. That's true. Yeah,
it's
'cause
the leak.
nobody's bothered sealing the
Yeah.
It's
previous
also worth
wheels.
more
but
than the car.
yeah.
But no, I mean,
Well, it's not hard to do. It's stock wheels are worth more.
but yeah, I mean, just same general stuff. But
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're going on any trip, regardless.
yeah, I
just-
mean, if I like you said, if you drive more than an hour and a half,
You're
you should
basically
probably
just
be
looking
taking
at
a
your-
toolkit and like probably a jack and spare
Well,
tire.
we
at
talked
least,
about
and
the road trip basics
Yeah.
before, so pretty much if you're going to a show, just do that.
yeah,
And bring some microfibers.
yeah.
with you.
Don't take
Yeah.
nothing because you're just
Quick
gonna be-
detailer might kind of buy that.
Yeah,
I did have to buy that. I was
Yeah.
out. I usually keep some in the trailer. I, needed to go and buy some.
interesting. But
Black
yeah,
car,
I mean,
black car life.
same,
trouble.
same, but different. Just less wear and tear items.
Yeah.
Less likely to go bad because it's being.
Do you have a spare in that car?
I'm in the current process of getting a spare for that
Okay.
car.
Okay.
I see.
I have a set of wheels.
Handy
on it.
thing, not a bad idea. Always check up on that
Especially,
spare, whether it be for
yeah.
the truck or the trailer
Yep.
or the car you're driving.
Yep.
It's not hard. Just
Is
like
that why I saw you looking for a tire
Yep.
earlier? I
Yeah.
might have one in the basement somewhere.
A 205/40 for a 16.
Does it matter?
Yeah, man, I used to run a whole bunch of tires on this E36 over here.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's
It's a
fine.
spare.
I think I have one lined
Doesn't
up.
be perfect.
If I know
Right.
Craig said he's got 2, and Julian said he's getting me one, but we'll see what happens. I'll have one by the end of the week, before Thursday, hopefully. So, but yeah, other than that, that's about it. That's all I have. So,
Okay, well.
sign off.
Track day prep. There it is.
Yep,
or
track day.
shows if
Yeah,
that's what you're
prep
into.
in
If-
general.
event-
It's kind of
event prep.
general prep, regardless of what
Yeah,
you're
prep.
taking. Whether you're going truck and trailer to pick up some brand new ship box 6 hours away, like you should be equally prepared.
Yeah,
It's one of those things. Just kind of plan ahead for some sort of contingency plan.
right.
Yeah.
Is
Better to be over prepared than
Jumper cables.
yeah,
Jumper
Talk about
cables
that
is
one.
a
That's
plus.
a good one.
Yeah,
that
I'm
is a
gonna have
good
to take
one.
those.
It's a nice
Jump
plan
pack.
B.
Ideally, those are fire.
Less necessary if it's a manual, but
Less necessary,
it's
but
still
also very
better
still
than
helpful.
jumping stuff
Yeah.
and trying to push.
Well, I was
cars
thinking of
around.
I mean, my jump pack eventually died, but I had one that was also very helpful just for the diagnostics.
Right.
Yeah, if
Because
it
then
can-
you had a 12-volt thing,
Yep.
which was short of carrying a battery around,
Right.
handy. But yeah,
Well,
that's about all we got, or at
That-
least all the stuff that was immediately relevant.
Right.
I'm sure there's a ton more.
Oh, there's tons of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of never ending, but
Yeah.
it's
Like
be
you said,
aware of your vehicle.
Can never be over prepared.
If a noise changes, investigate it. Don't
Yeah.
just keep running
Don't
it.
wait.
Yeah.
That's a like.
Or
I
if you
mean, on the
notice that
topic of
something
spare
is-
tires, that's
right.
the difference between actually needing another tire versus getting one like patched or plugged or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Catch it early.
Yeah.
better to know than to not know, but that all goes in whether or not you're
Your
looking
awareness.
at your car. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's how aware of your car you actually are. But I think that's all we have for today. Check us out at CAD Cars on Instagram, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, etc.
Anywhere you listen to podcasts,
Yep.
tell your
Yeah.
friends, tell your wife.
Yeah, send in suggestions.
Or husband.
And what was
Oh,
it?
yeah. Okay.
Or husband.
Or husband. But yeah, that's all we have. See you later.